All right, let's talk about a term that pretty much everyone thinks they understand: social work. You know, we hear it and we immediately think of kindness, of charity, of helping people out. And look, that's definitely part of the picture, but it is nowhere near the whole story. Social work is actually a super complex, demanding, and really highly structured profession. Okay, let's dive in. So let me ask you something right off the bat. When I say the words social work, what's the first image that pops into your head? Is it maybe a volunteer at a food bank? A neighbor helping someone carry their groceries? Just hold that thought for a second, because we're about to put it to the test. And this is the core of it, right here. On one side, you have our gut reactions, volunteering, being a good friend, all things that are awesome and valuable. But then on the other side, you see the real deal: a socially mandated profession. This isn't just about being a good person, it's a formal job that society has literally created to do something very specific and very important. To help us really get our heads around this, we're going to turn to the work of Zofia Boutrim, who was a true pioneer in this field. Her ideas are perfect for cutting through all the confusion and getting right to the heart of what makes social work so unique. Yep, we're going straight to the source to figure this out. So here's our game plan. First, we'll dig into why it's so much more than just being kind. Then we'll get into the rules and ethics that are the foundation of the whole thing. After that, we'll peek inside the social worker's toolkit. Then we'll tackle the biggest challenge they face, what I'm calling the paradox of helping. And finally, we'll talk about the ultimate goal of it all. All right, let's jump right into that first big idea. What really separates a random act of kindness from what a professional social worker does? Well, it all boils down to this one really powerful concept: a mandate from society. And that official role is built on this key term: societal mandate. What does that mean? It means that we as a society have officially recognized a need and have given this profession the authority and the responsibility to deal with it. This is the bright, clear line that separates a professional from a well-meaning volunteer. There's a formal structure. There's real responsibility. Now, if society is going to give you a mandate like that, you can bet it's going to expect something in return. And that something is a super strict set of rules. This brings us to the ethical foundation that every single social worker has to build their practice on. It's totally non-negotiable. You can think of these ethics almost like a professional's vow, and it's broken down into these three core pillars: integrity, competence, and accountability. And these aren't just, nice ideas. They are the absolute bedrock of any social work that's trustworthy and actually effective. Everything starts with integrity. This is the moral backbone of the whole operation. It's not just about being honest. It's about sticking to a professional code of ethics, no matter what, especially when it gets difficult. It's the promise to do the right thing, even when no one's looking. Next up is competence. And this one is huge because just having good intentions is not enough, not even close. A social worker has to bring real, proven skills to the table. This is a profession that's rooted in evidence and tested techniques to make sure that the help someone is getting is, actually helpful. And finally, accountability is what closes the loop. A social worker has to be able to explain and justify every single professional action they take to their clients, to their organization, and to society as a whole. Every decision has to be defensible. In this line of work, there's just no room for just because. Okay, so we've got the ethical foundation covered. But what does a social worker actually use day in and day out? Let's take a look inside their toolkit. It's really built on two main pillars: a very deep knowledge base and a specific set of values that get translated into action. And this really shows you just how broad that knowledge has to be. A social worker has to look at a person from a holistic point of view. That means understanding the biological stuff, their physical health, the psychological world, their mind, their emotions, and the social context they live in, their family, their community. You can't solve a problem if you're only looking at one tiny piece of the puzzle, right? But here's the thing. The knowledge isn't just about understanding the client. A massive part of the professional toolkit is self-awareness. Social workers are constantly trained to examine their own biases, their own assumptions, their own emotional reactions, just to make sure that stuff isn't getting in the way of their professional judgment. This is often done through a process called supervision. So how does all this come together in the real world? It happens in what's called the helping relationship, which Bertram says has three essential co-equal parts. First, you've got reality, facing the situation for what it is, no sugarcoating. Second, empathy, really truly understanding and connecting with how the person is feeling. And third, support, giving them actual, tangible help. You absolutely need all three for it to work.
And this leads us to maybe the most fascinating and honestly the most difficult part of social work. The very act of helping someone has a paradox baked right into it. There is an incredibly fine line between giving support and accidentally creating an unhealthy dependence.
So here's the crucial point, this central tension. On one side, you have the risk. The helping relationship can become a crutch, right? Where the person becomes so reliant on the social worker that they can't move forward on their own. But on the other side is the goal, to use that temporary relationship to help the person build their own skills and their own resources so that eventually they don't need the social worker anymore. And this whole idea is captured perfectly in this one powerful principle. The purpose of help is not to strengthen dependence, but to promote independence. That right there is the guiding star for all ethical social work. The ultimate goal, kind of funny enough, is to make yourself obsolete, to work yourself out of a job. So where does all this leave us? I mean, after we've looked at the mandate, the ethics, this tricky paradox, you start to see that social work forces us to completely redefine what it even means to help someone. And here it is. The ultimate goal is not to be some kind of savior who swoops in and fixes everything. No, it's about something way more profound than that. It's about respecting a person's dignity, their worth, by empowering them to find and use their own strength to solve their own problems. Now that is the highest form of help. So I'll just leave you with this question to chew on. Thinking about all these professional principles, how can we apply this wisdom in our own lives? How do we offer real support to the people we care about, our friends, our family, in a way that actually builds them up and helps them be independent, instead of accidentally taking their power away? It's a really powerful thought to consider. Thanks for watching.